That's such an important thing to talk about that I don't think is put out into the public enough. And when we talk about entrepreneurs, is how hard it is for us
Yeah.
to separate our identity from our
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
You're right. In your case, it's a little bit more intertwined, very intertwined. But I've recently, been struggling with that. That's something that, I think is important, especially when you're building a product like outside of yourself. Again, you've got a unique scenario. But if you're like me building, software companies and things don't go as planned, you're right. When that pressure gets on you, it just makes you want to cry, and it's a lot, and you isolate yourself or you feel isolated. But I think one of the important things to understand is, there's, all that stress, but your identity is not wrapped
Right.
up in that.
Exactly.
And I think, again, you're in a unique situation, but I also think it's important for you to still try to separate the two. And
Right.
that's hard. It's really hard as an entrepreneur.
Man.
And it leads to just a lot of, side effects, emotionally that I don't think, people talk about enough.
Yep.
Yeah. And I've recently, I've been going through that. And I think the way that I get through it is, again, telling myself that, as a business owner, especially in the early stages, it's a series of experiments that you're running to see if you've got something that has legs. And you've got to view it through that lens, because if an experiment doesn't work and you feel that pressure, at the end of the day, it's just an experiment, And so you kind of got to micro break up the business into individual experiments to take the pressure and weight off your back.
Right.
Because if you let one individual thing that you test or one individual poor client experience,
Right.
weigh you down, which
Right.
we can talk about that horror story. But if you let that put too much pressure on yourself and you don't separate yourself from your business,
Right.
it'll crush you.
Right. Right.
And it forces you to think more about yourself. And that's one thing that I've been going through the last several months. My software company, we're in a stage where, it's not what we wanted. And so what it makes you do is it makes you look internally on yourself, because your identity is intertwined. And if you are able to, use that stress and that, hardship to look inward and figure out more about yourself and your strengths and weaknesses, and the next time, that next experiment's going to go better. Or if the business doesn't go well, that next business, how to handle better. And so I think it's just, we need to talk about that more as entrepreneurs, identity.
Right.
And then we need to talk about, how do we view our business to take that weight off our shoulders? And then how do we look inward when things don't go right? And I don't think that those things are talked about enough in culture in general, but especially in the entrepreneurial community, because it is lonely.
Yeah.
You are running so much of your business and putting so much pressure on yourself. Who do you talk to?
Right.
Other than other entrepreneurs and maybe your investors?
Right.
So it's really hard to talk about.